Thursday morning in Lagos. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the program. Imagine a Nigeria where economic growth is tangible, job creation is on the rise, a nation where national security is strengthened. That's the vision President Tinubu painted yesterday when he presented the 2025 budget that he tagged Budget of Restoration, Securing Peace, and Rebuilding Prosperity. It's a whopping 49.7 trillion naira budget, promising to drive economic growth, create opportunities, and invest in Nigeria's youthful population. The goals are quite ambitious, just as the figures. We're looking at advancing national security, creating jobs, investing in infrastructure development, and promoting national reorientation. But what does this really mean for the average Nigerian? How will this budget address pressing issues like poverty, education, and healthcare? Also, how realistic are some of the projections from inflation to exchange rate and base crude oil production assumptions, among others? That's what we're talking about today as we delve into the details of the 2025 budget. My guest is a tax and financial analyst, Chukwuemeka EZE, and we'll be exploring some of the implications, challenges, and opportunities presented by this budget and what it means for Nigeria's future growth trajectory. Mr. EZE, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you. Good morning for having me.
And compliments of the season to you. Again, we saw President Tinubu acknowledging yesterday that, that things have been really difficult and sacrifices have been made. He went on to promise that these challenges will not be in vain, and that the new year is promising something really better. But I want us to begin by looking at what he calls government reforms yielding results. According to him, our economy grew by 3.46% in the third quarter, up from 2.5% in the third quarter of 2023, as against global economic growth projected at 3.2%. What do you make of what he considered Nigeria's economic progress in the outgoing year vis-a-vis what majority of Nigerians experienced?
I think he was speaking of statistics, because the World Bank, the IMF, they have their statistics, and the National Bureau of Statistics, that's that of Nigeria. And at the beginning of every year, or even prior to the beginning of every year, the World Bank and the IMF already have their targeted statistics for each country. So that's, I think, what he was speaking of. The one targeted for the third quarter for last year was about 3.2%. And he said that of Nigeria grew by 3.46%. But I don't know the parameters, although it depends on the parameters used. Because, you know, with the removal of oil subsidy, we no longer spend so much on oil subsidy. So one will not be surprised that there was some form of growth. So the exchange rate unification also is another measure that this present government took, expecting that the third one will land safely, but that's the tax reform bills.
Indeed.
And anyway, that one is on its own journey.
Absolutely.
But I think that will cap it up. But instead of looking at what 2.5% of the third quarter of 2023 and 3.46% of third quarter of 2024, we should be looking at what was the projection of the World Bank, IMF, for the third quarter of 2023. So that will be, we can do a proper comparative analysis, whether we were doing well at third quarter of 2022. And in any case, that was when the policies, especially removal of oil subsidy and the other one, when they were just beginning, there was so much panic, and one could understand why the economy slowed down at that time. So
it's
I
hard
think
to
the
tell
confidence is
if the metrics government is using tallies with what the Nigerian people are using when it comes to the cost, the price of commodity, the standard of living, and their purchasing power. But I wanted to quickly speak to the implications of the foreign reserves, which he mentioned yesterday is nearly $42 billion.
$42 billion.
He mentioned that it will help buffer against external economic shocks. Break it down for us.
All right. Usually, when you have what we have is not even quite commendable. When you do comparative analysis with other countries we are competing with, for instance, Egypt and South Africa, within Africa, if you look at those ones, our $42 billion is not something to rejoice about. Then if you look at the D8, some countries within the medium powers that call themselves D8, they have an organization called D8. That's Nigeria, Iran, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Turkey, Malaysia, Pakistan. By the time you look at it, you discover that Nigeria is having almost the least. So it's not something to rejoice about, but without looking
relative to where we're coming from.
Yeah, relative to where we are coming from, you can make a lot of imports and be confident that your letters of credit will not be rejected because you have. That's why I said it's a buffer. So we have a fallback position. That would have been different, assuming if you say that the foreign reserve is $10 billion, that would have become very worrisome. So we can confidently, while doing the balancing act, be confident that, for those essentials, we have supposedly a relatively healthy foreign reserve to make, possibly ensure that our letters of credit, foreign banks respect the orders we make as business people in this country.
Before presenting the 2025 spending plan yesterday, he also he reported that our current trade surplus, which now stands at 5.8 trillion naira, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Do you see that significantly contributing to our economic growth and development in real time?
I don't see that as significant, especially when it is in naira. When you measure it in dollars. You discover it's very low. So it's not something to rejoice about. That's in the meantime. Besides, but I think there will be improvement if we really get into our own part in the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. If we exploit it more and more in the coming year, the trade balance will be better than what we currently have. But we need to walk the talk, because why many Nigerians are skeptical about many of these things, that the talk had always been there, but the action had always not been significant over the years. No matter the name the budget is called, this one is currently a budget of restoration, securing peace, and rebuilding prosperity. Nigerians are looking forward to see the prosperity in the markets,
beyond
in their homes, beyond the words. So Nigerians will really want to see action, see the government walk the talk, and because they say the devil is in the details.
Absolutely. We're going to have to remain optimistic with the AFCTA you talked about, because with the exits of Burkina Faso, Niger, and what other country? Mali from ECOWAS. Even though they are saying the free visa policy is still there, we'll see how it goes on, how it plays out in the coming year. So government met 75% of its revenue target this year, 85% of its expenditure target, reaching about 21.6 trillion naira. Let's talk about the impact of this on our fiscal sustainability from the figures Mr. President doled out yesterday.
Yes, with the increase in to 49.7, right? trillion for 2025.
For 2024. Expenditure? 85%
I know.
target, yes.
Where we are going to.
Okay, what we're going to.
You have read out figures for 2024.
Indeed.
For 2025, I see government being more aggressive with revenue generation and collection, especially after the passage of the tax reform bills. Government may go beyond the 75%.
We're going to get to 2025, but I was really probing how well you think we fared at 75% of revenue target this year.
How we fared.
Is that a pass mark?
Sure. I mean, that's an A. If you're a student and you take an exam and you score 75%, that's a pass mark.
And then we had 85% of
expenditures, but that shows we still run on deficit in all these areas, both in budget, in terms of revenue and expenditure. And each time you run on such deficits, that means you will be doing more borrowing.
Indeed.
Because the money must come from somewhere.
Absolutely. Let's